Hey, so what is going on, everyone? It is me, Mr. Mario, and today I'm going to be talking to you about one of my favorite series and characters of all time, and this is Conker the Squirrel, and I'm going to be talking about his games right here, and why I believe that now would be a great time to start making and release here within the next few years Conker Live and Uncut. Now, first off, I want to say, I do love Conker. I have the other games. I actually have a physical copy of Conker Live and Reloaded. I have a physical copy. It pissed me off when I sold it the first time. I'm still mad at myself for doing that when I was a kid. But I ended up tracking down and I rebought Conker's Bad Fur Day on the Nintendo 64. And I just got Rare Replay, and it just came out, so I think the time is right to talk about this right now. And I wanted to talk about it, but not in depth like this before. So in case you don't know, Rare Replay is a collection of games that were hand-chosen by Rare that they felt like they could put on the Xbox One, that they felt like, really symbolized, what they were doing at that time, and they were great games, and they also had, the copyright to reproduce and everything and create new code for and redistribute. So for $30, you get 30 games, and Conker's Bad Fur Day, the N64 version of it, is one of them. That made me so happy. That, to me, this collection was pretty much Conker's Bad Fur Day plus 29 other games for free. And I'm not even insulting the other games. Like, the other games I still want to play, but I'll be straight up, I bought this mostly for Conker's Bad Fur Day. And some people might say that's stupid. Well, let me put it to you like this. Conker's Bad Fur Day on the N64 cartridge only sells for about $70 at minimum. This is $30 and it works on brand new hardware. So you tell me what the better deal is economically right there. Now, what do I think of the remake right here? Not the remake, the remaster. I think it's great. It's still 4:3, it's still letterbox, but it looks clean. The frame rate is locked at 30 frames per second. It really doesn't. I noticed one drop, and that was when there was an explosion, but the game looks nice. It runs smooth. I can hear the music so much better compared to the N64 version. The voices, I don't believe they touched up the voice. They might have touched them up a little bit, but they didn't re-record any of the audio, so they just did a remaster of this. And some people might say it's not a remaster because it still has old graphics. Listen, I want to explain this real quick as well, too. Some people get confused between the two, between a remake and a remaster. This is what I'm going to explain. A remake is when you take a game and you either do a reimagining of it or you completely rebuild the game. So for example, let's take some examples here. Resident Evil on the GameCube is a remake of Resident Evil for the PlayStation 1. Conker Live and Reloaded on the Xbox is a remake of Conker's Bad Fur Day on the N64. Now, remasters is when they take the original game, but they improve it. They might add some extra DLC content to it. They'll brighten up the textures. They'll go back, they'll clean up textures. They'll increase the frame rate. They'll increase the resolution. They'll lock the frame rate even if they can, anything like that. And some examples of that, for example, Conker's Bad Fur Day on the Xbox One is a remaster of Conker's Bad Fur Day on the N64. God of War 3 Remastered on PS4 is a remaster, obviously, of God of War 3 from the PlayStation 3. And even, I'm thinking, what was it? The Ico, or Eco, I guess you could say, Eco and Shadow of the Colossus on PlayStation 3. They were remasters of the PlayStation 2 versions because they were not remade. They were the same game, except they were improved upon. They were made widescreen, the resolution was increased on both of those games, and they ran at a mostly steady frame rates compared to the PlayStation 2 versions of them. So now that we got that out of the way, we're just going to verify that this game has already been remade, but it has been remastered this time around. So some people might be asking, why is it that I want this game to be remade again as opposed to a sequel coming out? Well, first off, I think that it's great that it's on the Rare Replay. There's so many people out there that own Xbox Ones that have never played Conker that wanted to play, and Conker's always gotten the short end of the stick. We'll even go back in time here a little bit, and this is why I'm so happy that it's come out now, in 2015, when these consoles are actually relevant and people are buying them and they're looking forward to games coming out on them. Conker's Bad Fur Day came out on the N64 in 2001. Guess what happened around that time? In 2000, the PlayStation 2 came out. In 2001, the same year that this game originally came out on the N64, the GameCube and the original Xbox came out. So by the time this game came out on a 6th generation console, the 7th generation was already underway. Let's go ahead and look at Conker Live and Reloaded, which was the remake of Conker's Bad Fur Day. Great remake, and some people might debate that, but I'm going to talk about that as well. I think it was a good remake. It did the original justice, but here's the thing. That came out on the original Xbox in 2005. The Xbox 360 came out later that year, still the same year, in 2005. It came out just months later. So Conker Live and Reloaded came out at the very end, pretty much, of the original Xbox's life cycle. Because the way I look at it is, yes, a older system can still survive amongst newer systems, but really, once we switch generations, that's when developers are going to start looking for the newer systems. And I'm sure even at that time, because from what I see, it originally came out on the Xbox June 21st, 2005. I'm sure at that point, some people who had heard about, the next generation Xbox said, you know what, I'm not going to buy an Xbox. I'm going to buy an Xbox 360, or I'm just going to wait to buy an Xbox when they're really cheap and I can get one for $20 at Goodwill because the Xbox 360 is going to come out here pretty soon. Or at the time, they were calling it the Xbox 2. So why do I want Conker Live and Uncut? Well, a little bit of a history lesson here. Again, I know I keep going back and forth, but just hear me out. When this game was originally announced as a remake, it was going to be called Conker Live and Uncut. Now, what the original plan was is that they were going to take the original Conker's Bad Fur Day and completely rebuild the game. They were going to rebuild it on the original Xbox, and they were going to stay loyal to everything, but they were going to do all new textures and all that stuff, and it was going to look great, and it was going to handle well, and they wanted to, fix the issues and limitations that they had with the Nintendo 64 copy of it, and then they wanted to integrate Xbox Live into it, and they wanted to put a whole multiplayer component into it as well, which was going to, have its own type of thing. And if I remember, I'm going to either link videos down below, or I might even show some on screen. I think I'll probably just link the videos, because I don't want to, deal with copyrights or anything like that. But there was a different multiplayer component that was there. Now, the multiplayer components between Conker Live and Reloaded and Conker's Bad Fur Day are very different. And that pisses off a lot of Conker loyalists. I myself never really played the multiplayer, so I don't really have that issue. I did play Conker Live and Reloaded on Xbox Live for a bit before it went out of service, and I thought it was very fun. I sucked at it, but it was very fun. So here's the thing. Later on, I remember I went to GameStop and I asked when Conker Live and Uncut is coming out. And they told me the date. And then I asked, okay, when is Conker Live and Reloaded coming out? And they just looked at each other like it was two associates. They're like, that was the same game. I'm like, no, it's not. One of them's Uncut and one of them's not. They're like, no, Conker Live and Uncut is now Conker Live and Reloaded. And I was like, okay, that doesn't make any sense, but I guess it's coming out the same date. And that's what happened. We got Conker Live and Reloaded. So that is my first thing. Conker Live and Reloaded, from what I remember, they let loose on the censors a little bit in some areas, but in some areas, they also censored the game heavier compared to the original N64 version of it. Now, the version that we have on the Xbox One, compared to the N64 version, there are some differences, and the main differences are really, honestly, they've removed explicit Nintendo references. For example, on the cartridge version, the N64 version, at the very beginning, Conker comes out with a chainsaw, and he saws the N64 logo in half. Of course, since this is an Xbox console, they can't have that for various copyright reasons, and also, I'm sure a lot of people would, use that as ammunition against the Wii U and all that, so they didn't put that in. Instead, they just replaced it with a cold boot of the Conker's Bad Fur Day logo, which isn't nearly as cool, but I understand why they did it. Aside from that, many other things are in there. The same cheat codes are in there. Banjo and Kazooie are both in the pub when you go in. All the other Easter eggs are in there, at least to my knowledge. I haven't got super into the game yet, but they just removed anything that was explicitly Nintendo, or most of the stuff. So there's all of that right there. Now, when it comes to censoring, in short, I want an uncensored version of the game. It's 2015. Okay, now I'm happy that they kept this version censored because they wanted to stick to the original N64 release as close as possible, and I believe they did, and I believe they did an excellent job. But I want an uncensored version of Conker. That is what I've wanted. What they should do is allow any cuss words in the game. If there was any, nudity or anything like that, If they have it in there for humor's sense, I guess I can understand. But anything else, they just need to completely take out and just completely uncensor and bring the uncut version. And in addition to that, it would be even cooler if they ended up bringing back several scenes that were cut from the game. One of them, I believe they kind of partially restored it, was when some of the teddies were killing some squirrels that they had tied up. In the N64 version, they only had one squirrel, but in the beta of it, they had 3. They ended up bringing the 2 other squirrels back on the Xbox version of Conker. Another thing was, I'm trying to remember what it was right now, but it might be easier to remember this other bit. There's some bits they just can't bring back. At one point, there was also a completely cut scene. This was just a deleted scene that they took out, where one of the mob bosses in the game ended up beating up Pikachu. I'm not even making that up. If you look into the game's code, you can find Pikachu's tail, and there are people who've actually reassembled that deleted scene where the boss ends up beating up Pikachu. They're not going to bring that back because obviously Nintendo wasn't cool about it. They didn't put it into the game, and now since it's on Xbox, they can't put it on because that's Pikachu, who's Pokemon, who's Nintendo. So there's no way we're going to get that scene back. But there was another one, now I'm remembering, it was another World War II one. This scene was also cut out of the game. There's one part where you have to go into a morgue, I want to say, and there are some teddies that are operating on a live squirrel, and there's some scary horror music that's playing. That was removed from the final retail build on the N64 version, or at least it was a deleted scene. I don't know if they brought it back in the Xbox version, but that would be cool if they brought it back in live and uncut so it can truly live up to its name. So with anything like that, I want an uncut version. And with the live part of it, yes, we got a new multiplayer component on Conker Live and Reloaded, but it's pretty much dead. Now, there's 2 things with it. One, we can't play it anymore. It's as easy as that. The original Xbox Live, you can't access it anymore. So now any type of multiplayer service, online multiplayer service for that game is locked away unless you use a tunneling service on your Xbox 360 or your original Xbox. And when it comes to the multiplayer component itself, people like me didn't have an issue with it who didn't play the original multiplayer on the N64 version. People who played the original multiplayer on the N64 version have a huge issue with it because they believe the N64 multiplayer was better. And I can see why as well. But even there was supposed to be a completely different variant of the completely just ramped up version of the multiplayer for Live and Uncut. And for whatever reason, that version was not in Live and Reloaded. So that remastered, redone multiplayer that was exclusive to Live and Uncut, I would want that back in there as well. The original Live and Uncut, that's all I want. I want the original game remade on the Xbox One with the original planned remade and remastered multiplayer and the uncut version of Conker's Bad Fur Day. I'm paraphrasing here, but even in an interview that I saw where there was an interview with one of the developers at E3 where he showed the game actually running and everything, and he even said, yes, this is the multiplayer component, and for single player, we're going to have the exact same Nintendo 64 game running, except we're going to have it updated with Xbox graphics. And that's what I want right now. That is what I want, and I don't think I'm the only one who'd be opposed to this. Now, a lot of other people are saying, don't remake the game, don't remaster the game, just release the sequel. Well, here's the thing. I think this could bring in a whole new audience, and in addition to that, this would be the first time, if it happens, here soon, which it can't happen tomorrow, I understand that, but if it happens within the next, 2 years or so, this could be the first time that this game is released at a relevant time for a relevant system. As I said, Conker Live and Reloaded, they cut it very close, but they ended up releasing the game pretty much right before the original Xbox was over with. The N64, they released it by the time the new systems, the 6th generation of systems, was already out. So they've never really had the best luck with Conker, unfortunately. Maybe even if we were lucky, we could get 12 Tales or something like that, but I think that would really weird out people because then all of a sudden you have this mature character who's going into this kid's video game and people would be like, what the hell? I don't want this. I want the explicit Conker. Where are the sex jokes and all that? So I don't think that's going to happen, but that would be really cool if that happened as well, because I'd love to play 12 Tales. I really would. That'd be fantastic. But aside from that, that is my logic for why I want Conker Live and Uncut and why I think it would be absolutely awesome if it happened. And if it did, I would buy it in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even think about it. I would just buy it in a heartbeat because we have had now 3 editions of Conker. We've had Bad Fur Day in 64, Live and Reloaded, and Bad Fur Day on Xbox One. And none of those 3 are the uncut version. All of them are censored. And then, of course, on the Xbox One version, now you have the N64 multiplayer on there, and I believe you can play it online. From what I saw, at least in the menus, you could play it online. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong on that. I believe you can play it online, but the Live and Reloaded multiplayer, you can't play online anymore, at least not officially. There's no official way to play it online. And a lot of people might be kind of iffy on that multiplayer, so I'd say, you know what, bring back the Live and Reloaded multiplayer, well, Live and Uncut multiplayer, because that's a multiplayer component that nobody outside of, the development teams and E3 and all that ever got to see a production code of, or a production run, a retail version of. And I would love to see something like that. So let me know what your thoughts are on this. I know I probably repeated myself a few times and this went on for a bit, but this is just a series and a character that I'm very passionate for and that I love, and I want this to happen. I think it would be a great thing if it happened, and I think, now that we're seeing, for example, Conker came back, in Project Spark. They're doing their own thing in Project Spark, that they released Rare Replay, that it shows that they are well aware of Conker, that Microsoft and Rare are well aware that Conker is still a thing, and that people still want him, and we have been vocal about this. And, I mean, you've seen so many miracles happen, man, like Shenmue 3. This is another thing. I know I've referenced that in a few videos, but goddamn, I never thought that was going to happen. I never thought that was going to happen. When I said I want that on my E3 wish list, I was blowing smoke. And I can't believe they showed it at E3 of all things. And now we have Conker here. People know who he is, and I think this would be great. He's being brought to, more official Microsoft stuff. He's being brought to remasters and everything like that, like the Rare Replay. I think it would be great if they can make more use of this guy because Conker is awesome. I would just put it like that. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. Let me know what you think of this.